Hello, students. Welcome. I am so glad you're joining me today. We are going to go through a complete, step-by-step explainer of the beautiful story, A Letter to God. My goal is simple. I want to make sure you understand every single plot point, character motivation, and key phrase absolutely perfectly for your exams. We're going to take it at a nice, comfortable pace so you can absorb every little detail. Let's dive right in. Today's explainer covers 5 key parts: the anticipation of rain, the destructive hailstorm, Lencho's unshakable faith, the postmaster's good deed, and finally, the ultimate irony. Part 1. The anticipation of rain. Our story begins in a very isolated location, at the only house in the entire valley. Picture this. Lencho's house sits right there on the crest of a low hill. From that height, he can look over the river and his field of ripe corn dotted with flowers. Now, those flowers always promised a good harvest. As he's looking out, his wife, who is simply called the woman in the text, is preparing supper. The older boys are working hard out in the field, while the smaller ones are playing near the house. It's just a peaceful, hard-working family scene. The earth desperately needed just one thing, a downpour, or at least a good shower. During their meal, the rain finally begins to fall, and the air gets fresh and sweet. Lencho actually goes outside just to feel the rain on his body. And he uses this absolutely beautiful metaphor. He says the drops aren't water. They are new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5s. So why do you think Lencho called the raindrops new coins? Well, think about how much his family's survival depended on that rain. A good harvest directly meant prosperity. The rain literally equaled money, food, and a completely secure future for his household. Part 2. The destructive hailstorm. Unfortunately, that gentle curtain of rain quickly turns into a total disaster. Notice the stark contrast in the words here. Initially, the good rain was new coins, but suddenly, a strong wind begins to blow, and for an entire hour, very large hailstones fall. The text tells us these truly did resemble new silver coins. The innocent boys, who didn't quite realize the danger to the crops, ran out to collect what the author calls frozen pearls. By the end of it, the field was totally white, as if covered with salt, and the corn was completely destroyed. Standing in the middle of his ruined field, Lencho is filled with such deep sadness. He tells his sons that even a plague of locusts would have left more behind than the hail. Now, please remember this definition for your exams. Locusts are insects that fly in huge swarms and eat all the crops. Lencho is basically saying that even the absolute worst insect attack would have been kinder than this ice, because the hail left absolutely nothing. Part 3. Lencho's unshakable faith. That night was incredibly sorrowful, and they feared they would all go hungry. But the darkness also brings out a deep, unshakable faith for Lencho's family. They remind themselves that no one dies of hunger. Lencho firmly believed in the help of God. He had been taught that God's eyes see absolutely everything, even what is hidden deep in one's conscience. Conscience is your inner sense of right and wrong. So Lencho believed God knew exactly how pure his heart was and how desperate their situation had become. Now, understanding Lencho's character is a very crucial exam point. Please memorize this idiom. The text calls Lencho an ox of a man. What does that mean? It means he worked incredibly hard, just like a powerful animal in the fields. But here's the interesting part. Despite being a simple, hardworking farmer, he still knew how to read and write, and he was definitely going to use that skill. Pay close attention to his exact routine here. The very next Sunday, right at daybreak, he begins to write a letter. He walks all the way to town himself, and what does he write? He asks God for exactly 100 pesos to sow his field again and to survive until the next crop arrives. At the post office, he places a stamp on the envelope, which he addressed simply to God, and drops it right into the mailbox. It's such a singular, pure act of hope. Part 4. The postmaster's good deed. We now follow that letter into the town's post office, where a postman picks it up and just starts laughing heartily at the strange address. He takes this highly unusual letter to his boss, the postmaster. Now, the author describes the postmaster as a fat, amiable fellow. Amiable simply means friendly and pleasant. He also breaks out laughing at first, but almost immediately he turns very serious. He taps the letter on his desk, deeply moved. He literally wishes he had the unshakable faith of this man who was starting up a correspondence with God. To keep Lencho's beautiful faith intact, the postmaster decides he has to answer the letter. But to do that, he needs more than just goodwill, ink, and paper. He needs money. So he organizes an act of charity. He gathers funds from 3 distinct sources. He gives a part of his own salary. He asks his employees for money, and several of his friends are obliged to give something for this good cause. It really illustrates the absolute goodness of human nature. But, despite all this wonderful collective effort, it was just impossible for the postmaster to gather the full 100 pesos Lencho requested. He was only able to collect 70 pesos. So he places the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho, and inside he puts a letter containing just a single word as a signature: God. The following Sunday, Lencho comes to the post office a bit earlier than usual to see if there's a letter for him. As the postman hands over the envelope, the postmaster is watching from his office. The text says the postmaster was experiencing contentment. Contentment means a deep sense of satisfaction. He was feeling that warm satisfaction of a man who knows he has done a truly selfless deed to help someone in need. Part 5. The ultimate irony. This brings us to the climax, where everything flips. Ask yourself this. When Lencho opened the envelope, was he surprised to see the money? The text tells us he showed not the slightest surprise. That is how immense his confidence was. But instead of being happy when he saw the 70 pesos, he became furious. He firmly believed God could not possibly make a mistake, and God surely wouldn't deny him what he had requested. Lencho is so angry, he immediately goes to the window to ask for paper and ink. He sits at the public writing table and starts writing a second letter. Notice the detail the author gives us here. He writes with much wrinkling of his brow. That physical detail is so important because it shows the intense effort he's making to express all his frustration and angry ideas. He finishes the letter, buys a stamp, licks it, and smacks it onto the envelope with a forceful blow of his fist. As soon as he drops it in the mail, the curious postmaster opens it up. And what does it say? Lencho tells God that only 70 pesos reached him and demands the rest. But he adds a very crucial instruction. He says, don't send it through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. I want to leave you with this highly important concept for your exams. The story ends on a note of deep irony. Remember, irony is when the outcome is the exact opposite of what you logically expect. It is perfectly illustrated here. The very people who sacrificed their own hard-earned money to save his family from starvation are the exact same people Lencho calls a bunch of crooks. It's a brilliant ending, isn't it? But it leaves us with a provocative question. Did Lencho's unshakable faith in God actually blind him to the goodness of the human beings standing right in front of him? Ponder that as you prepare your answers. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and best of luck with your studies.